All right. Thade and I did another Discord watch. He got to pick this one, and such a great choice because I had a really fun time with Starship Troopers. This movie came out in 1997. It was released by Sony here in America, Disney everywhere else, and was directed by Paul Verhoeven. But no one decided to show up to it. They did not see the sauce in this, but thankfully, movie has garnered a critical reevaluation for its satire and propaganda, and yeah, I think it's well worth being reevaluated. I want to get my little critique of the movie out of the way, or my only criticism, and it's that while I don't hate the story, I just feel like it's a bit cliched, I want to say, because especially with before they go to war, with the college, high school, or whatever you think it is, I don't know, and I want to go in the army, the parents saying, no, you can't, you've got the romance. It's not bad, but I don't know, they could have done something with it, something, I don't know, that made it stand out against other films that use these kind of cliches. Let's get on to the stuff that really had so much sauce to it. First off is the cast. Our three leads, Casper Van Dien, Diane Meyer, and Denise Richards, were really, really good in here. I enjoyed their dynamics, I enjoyed their arcs. You really get to see how much they grow throughout the movie, especially with how they're now the commanders at the end. Talking to the newbies, I was it's all coming full circle. I love seeing a genuine character progression. Same thing with Rico and Flora's romance. I thought it wasn't gonna go anywhere, but no, it did. He really loved her. Yeah, I really enjoyed their ship. I also love the teacher character. The teacher rocks. And also Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown's the GOAT. It's so cool to see him in live action roles, because we all know him as Mr. Krabs and other animated characters, but Clancy Brown is like J.K. Simmons. He can balance animation and live action very, very well. The practical effects and CG are also just top notch. First I want to talk about the CG, because this was 1997. This is the same year as An American Werewolf in Paris, which you all know how much I despise. That had really terrible CGI. But then when you look at the CGI here in Starship Troopers, while just a little bit of it could look dated, it still holds up really well, especially with the ships. It really reminded me of the Star Wars prequels in a way, because they had some really good CG to them. And also the bug creatures were also really good, both in computer generated and in practical. The action scenes are so well directed. It's Paul Verhoeven or whoever was writing this just snorted a line and was okay, here we go. It just nonstop action. And it is, I love it. It is so awesome. Because sometimes we just want to see guns go pow pow. But that's all I gotta say about Starship Troopers. It's great. And I really had such a great time with it. I'm really glad Thade suggested this one. And yeah, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Thade.
Thanks, Commander Goldston. Yeah, I thought the movie was amazing too. I wouldn't say it's a full-on 9 or 10 out of 10, but it's definitely hovering around an 8 out of 10. Starting off with the CGI. The CGI for 1997 standards is great. There was never really a point in the movie, at least in my opinion, where I felt kind of oh, the CGI looks really bad in that scene. That kind of took me out of the immersion of the movie. It looked great, the scenes where there's spaceships flying through space, whenever there's so many different bugs on screen, it's really impressive. And the CGI itself really reminds me a lot of like early Star Wars. It reminds me of like the Phantom Menace, some of the original trilogy CGI. Even that was like kind of like more practical effects, but those type of effects, it really does evoke kind of like Star Wars energy. So the CGI was great. Another great thing about Starship Troopers is the world building. In just one movie, you can kind of feel how the futuristic Earth and kind of like the futuristic planet is, with how like all the humans are all working together. No one really cares about like gender differences or race differences or even like country differences. By that point in time, the entire world is all unified and they're just trying to like take over the universe. And you can really tell like the movie is framed in a way where it's almost like someone's watching it on television. So it helps show how the world is. Like there's certain times in the movie where it cuts to like a commercial or something showing off something happening in the world. It really sets the tone for the whole rest of the film and gets you really immersed into the movie. So I thought that was another great aspect of it. Another great aspect is the performances. I think the characters, for what they were given with the story and stuff like that, they performed very well. I thought the main trio of characters, kind of like the three friends that we saw at the beginning, they were all really good. And the main character's love interest, I thought she was portrayed very well in the movie. And the MVP guy in the movie was the teacher. The teacher was actually like a badass, bro. He was the MVP. But really, the character's performance was very good. And something I thought about this too, it seems like the movie is heavily implying that this was kind of like a propaganda thing within the universe. Like all these characters were actually going and fighting in the war, but they were filmed for a propaganda purpose. So I think that's why the characters kind of like act the way they do. So I think they actually performed it very well. Another thing that was great too was like the soundtrack. The soundtrack was a low key thing in the movie, but I thought it was great. It kind of set the tone for a space age futuristic type movie, and it was actually great. And the main thing that I think is amazing about this film is kind of like the political messaging. The movie heavily implies that this is like a propaganda piece to try and get people to join the military. And what this whole movie kind of shows is that the government can use propaganda against its own citizens in like a very powerful way. Because this movie makes war just seem like completely badass. And in the universe, it causes a lot of people to sign up for the military. But it also shows that the government can kind of manipulate people because war obviously is hell and is bad. But with this propaganda and with the way they kind of like hype people up, it seems just amazing. So that's like, it kind of shows that the government can be kind of bad sometimes in that way. And additionally, too, it seemed like in the movie it heavily implied that the humans instigated the meteor attack, as that like in the movie, there's like a Mormon settlement that goes to the planet that eventually attacks them, and it causes the bugs to attack. So it kind of shows, too, the government might be setting up attacks to justify war, and then they kind of put out this propaganda to get people to join the military. So the political messaging of it, I think, is very nuanced and actually pretty good, too. And one more kind of like low-key thing about the movie, the humans in the future are overpowered. The people are doing like front flips and back flips. Like Luke said, it's like they just got out, like all the humans were just born with crack in their bodies. So they were just nuts. I thought that was like a cool thing they had in the movie, that humans were kind of like evolved by that point in time. But it's a very interesting film. A solid 8 out of 10. You definitely need to check it out. Also, I'm recording this after the Super Bowl. Shout out Eagles for taking down the Chiefs, and signing out.